Good afternoon. I'm Sister Missionary Delight with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And Sister X has graciously arranged for us to talk to you today about lots of things. My particular role in the order is to talk about old habits, since my old habits go way back. One of the founding sisters here in San Francisco back in 1979. And as I reflect on those years of old habits, to favor Sister X, I thought I would also today, in fact, wear one of the oldest habits that I have. One of the habits that Sister Vicious, Power-Hungry Bitch, in those early years known as Sister Radhanarishvara, brought here from Iowa, where he was in a group called the Sugar Plum Fairies. And they performed in gay bars throughout the state of Iowa, also going to Chicago. And the group, the Sugar Plum Fairies, were three gay men, Michael Salinas, Tracy Borgham, and Sister Vish, known as Kenny then, and Susan. And Susan went to a convent in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and this convent of Sisters of St. Joseph. Talked to one of the sisters there and said they were doing a production of The Sound of Music, and were there possibly any habits they could borrow for that. Well, Sister gave them 4 habits, the habits of old dead nuns who were obviously retired to eternity. And so out of the attic came these 4 habits which never got returned, and which the Sugar Plum Fairies, whenever they performed in those habits doing their cabaret numbers, they always got the best response. And that precipitated Kenny, when he later, about 3 or 4 years later, moved to San Francisco, brought those habits with him, where they languished in his closet until I moved here at the end of '79, actually the end of '78, right after Harvey Milk and George Moscone had been killed. But it was the spring of '79, right around 3 Mile Island time, actually the Holy Saturday of 1979, that Kenny said, hey, you know, we've got these habits in the closet. And maybe I should repeat that, and instead of keep saying Kenny, I should also say Sister Vish. He does like anonymity. We don't want to blow his cover fully in the universe. So Sister Vish said to me, you know, we've got these habits. And so we said, well, I said, Holy Saturday's coming up. And we got together with another sister, Sister Resurrection, eventually he became. And the 3 of us donned habits on Holy Saturday, and each chose an area of the city we wanted to visit. I chose Land's End, Sister Vish chose the Castro, and Resurrection chose the coffee shop in Pacific Heights. And we did all 3 of those that day and met with such a good reception from the faithful. People seemed to enjoy us so much that we just kept finding more opportunities in the community to manifest these habits that we had. And every time we were out, the community applauded us and cheered and had smiles on their faces, and we got off on the high of it too. Shortly around that time, we gave shelter to Sister Banana Nut Bread, also known as Sister Hysterectoria, Agnes de Guerin. And he said, well, let's get more people involved in our group. And for the Castro Street Fair that year, I think it was in July or August, we passed out little nun cards saying, do you want to be a part of a nun group? Call us at, and gave a phone number where we lived at the time, right in the shadow of Mission Dolores, in fact, just a few blocks from where we are speaking right now today. And we went out on that occasion, and the Castro Street Fair. Sister Erica America joined us too on roller skates, and indeed I think he got the Best Person on Roller Skates award that day. Got $100 for it, so that was encouraging. And I don't think we got a lot of response in terms of people calling up the convent saying, oh, I want to be a part of it. But later that September, Agnes and Reverend Mother went to the first nationally called a Spiritual Conference for Radical Fairies. It was held at a desert ashram in Arizona. And Kenny, or Agnes and Reverend Mother went to this fairy gathering. It was a weekend affair. They came back fully charged and transformed with the kind of energy they had encountered with other men identifying themselves as fairies. And very quickly, what had been 4 sisters was 14. And most of the energy that came in by that November were sisters who had been at this fairy gathering out in Arizona. And we saw the sisters as a way of trying to keep alive in the city that kind of spiritual fairy experience that had been theirs that weekend at a desert ashram. And by January of the following years, we had met at Sister Succubus's house, who, by the way, did the lettering of the banner that's here behind me, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, in that fine calligraphic script. That's the work of William Stewart, who at that time was Sister Succubus. And not only did he make this first banner for us, but Sister also, as we were all that day, many of us who had been Catholics, and we're now calling ourselves recovering Catholics, as we were mining the terminology of our theological pasts, we kept listing lots of words. And when perpetual indulgence, and when that combination came up, Sister Succubus was the first one to, I think, really strongly champion, yes, that's the name for us. And indeed, it has been our name ever since, as we continue to expand our order both nationally and internationally. And you have more opportunity to talk with the sisters to get that fuller perspective on the international perspective. But again, let me return to old habits and those early days in the order, and Reverend Mother and Sister Banana Nut Bread, also Sister Hysterectoria, I think one of the great names of the order. And I at that time, and for the first 10 years of my life and religious life, was Sister Missionary position. And that really came from, again, my own recovering Catholic past, where when I was in grade school, we were nickel and dimed ad infinitum by the dear Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, who taught me to give our nickels and dimes to the pagan babies. They were forever having us ransom pagan babies. We would give a nickel or a dime, and when the class had accumulated $5, then we were told we could adopt a pagan baby, and we could give it the name of a Christian saint. God, there were probably more Josephs and Marys in Zimbabwe and Thailand and any place where Roman Catholic missionaries were. And as I look on it back, it was such a horrendous kind of imperialist and patriarchal thing to do. So a part of when I realized that my calling was to be a nun, a gay male nun, one of the ways I sought to redeem that Catholic past of mine was to indeed continue to ransom pagan babies. But this time I was going to work at ransoming back to their pagan and fairy roots. And that's really what I've been dedicated to doing all the years of my sisterly life. And so I took the name Missionary, involved in that Sister Missionary position to really reflect that work to re-ransom pagan babies, as it were, to bring them back to the true religion, the nature religions that I think form the ground and the being of most religions that are worth anything in the world.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, good. Go on.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2.
And of course, the other part of Missionary is position, and was for those years, and that is just to certainly play on the whole heterosexual, popular sexual position. And so Sister Missionary position always had that slightly outre feeling of hinting at sex that is traditional. And I remember once when I performed at a club in New York, the Pyramid Club. It was a bomb, by the way. Sister bombed at the Pyramid Club in New York. And one of the people told me, and it was true, they said, "God, you're a Republican nun." And it was true. I realized in myself there is this great conservative Republican nun, much to my embarrassment, but it's there, and I deal with it in my life. And at the 10th anniversary of the order, I changed my name from Sister Missionary position to Sister Missionary.